Hi there, I am Karen O'Connor, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. Learning to play our vocal instruments, although enjoyable, is also a lot of hard work, both physical and mental. Today I want to talk about 6 slippery slopes when it comes to our thinking, attitudes, and voice use that can lead us into a bad place if we're not careful. The first slippery slope is thinking about voice use in the context of the short term only. A while back I had a student ask me if it was ever okay for a singer to use the voice incorrectly if the aesthetic outcome is otherwise favorable. My response to him was that judging a voice purely aesthetically is a slippery slope to go down. Some singers sound good despite their technique, not because of it. But what often happens is their mechanical inefficiencies and poor body use eventually catch up with them. These seemingly inconsequential technical flaws may ultimately limit them artistically or even cause premature wear and tear on the vocal apparatus that may shorten their careers. My view is that no matter how harmless these poor uses of the body may seem, they should be nipped in the bud and not permitted to persist. While it is true that the listener is primarily concerned with aesthetics, singers and singing teachers need to learn to listen on a functional level first and foremost to ensure that the sounds being made are being produced in a healthy and sustainable manner that will preserve the singer's vocal health and abilities in the long term. So don't simply think in the short term and deal with any vocal faults immediately and thoroughly. The second slippery slope is impatience. Players of all musical instruments tend to get impatient with themselves from time to time, but singers seem to be particularly prone to having unrealistic expectations regarding their progress. If you've ever learned to play a musical instrument, even if it came fairly easily to you and you progressed relatively quickly, you can probably attest to the fact that it still took a lot of time, many years, to be able to reach a level of proficiency and to be able to masterfully play the kinds of music that you want to. We need to give learning to play the vocal instrument the same amount of time, even more. If you think about it, the human voice is capable of creating far more colors and textures than any other instrument is. When I press a key on the piano, the only thing that I have control over is the loudness or quietness of that note. There are other mechanical parts hidden inside the body of the piano that create that note and its timbre. And apart from being able to vary loudness, the sound or timbre of that note is relatively fixed because the setup or configuration of the components doesn't alter at all. But the singer has the ability to alter the shape of his or her vocal instrument in a variety of ways, as well as adjust other factors involved in voice production. So in order for singers to be able to explore all the textures and colors and dynamics of the voice, we need to devote ourselves to study, put in the time and effort, and be patient with ourselves. We're going to make plenty of mistakes, especially early on. We're not instantly going to be making the sounds that we desire, and certainly not with any degree of consistency. But over time, we'll achieve mastery. And don't assume that the successful singers whom you admire never struggled or had to work hard at it to make those impressive sounds that inspire and move you so much. This brings me to slippery slope number 3, comparing ourselves to others. This is so hard to avoid doing when we have musical influences that inspire us. We don't operate in a bubble. And there's nothing wrong with taking note of other singers' voices and admiring them for whatever qualities they possess or what they do with them musically or artistically. There's also nothing wrong with learning from them, using their recordings as resources for our own practice times and vocal development. We listen to what they're doing and we figure out how we can learn to do it too. Comparison becomes a slippery slope, though, when we attach negative emotions to it. If we're looking at that other singer and disparaging or denigrating ourselves because we aren't as good, then our comparison is unproductive and detrimental to our emotional and mental health and our vocal growth. So comparison should be a tool for education and inspiration, not an exercise for measuring how far we have yet to go before we'll be able to accept our own voices for what they are. Slippery slope number 4 is listening to our own voices only externally. You've probably heard it before that air-conducted hearing doesn't provide an objective or accurate representation of our voices because the sound has already been transmitted to the inner ear via bone conduction. Kinesthetically, we train ourselves to hear our own voices through bone-conducted hearing, making the outer ears an insufficient agent for judging our own vocal sounds, especially when we have deeply ingrained verbal habits and have become accustomed to or familiar with those sounds. Now, I don't believe that we can't do both, or come to rely on both to give us accurate feedback about our vocal sounds. I think that I've gotten to a place where I can tell whether or not my sound is good by using both the sensations of bone conduction and external listening. And personally, I believe that this dual feedback is built into the design of the body instrument. I believe that we're supposed to hear our voices through both bone conduction and air conduction, and that these two types of hearing sort of fuse together or work in conjunction to form one accurate system, which may or may not be completely non-objective, but nevertheless enables us to adjust our sounds as we're making them. I do like to record myself and listen back. It allows me to hear my own voice through just external listening and will confirm or not my assessments of how I sound when I'm judging the sounds as I make them. Now, sometimes what happens during vocal training is singers make new sounds that they're not accustomed to hearing, and so the ear automatically rejects them as strange or awkward or wrong or even unpleasant. Yet these sounds may be precisely those that represent training progress. In these instances, turning off the outer ear and turning on the inner feel may be what is needed to help the singer find the right sound. The fifth slippery slope is giving too much credence to other people's opinions. Most of us take what other people say about us to heart. I personally have never found a way to completely avoid this. I've always been a very sensitive person and a perfectionist, which is a really bad combination. We can't avoid the criticism of others. Even amazing and highly successful singers are not without their critics. There is always going to be someone who doesn't like what we do or how we sound. But there are two responses that we can have to their negative comments or constructive criticism. We can either take it to heart, fall into a deep depression, vow to never sing again, and wither away without a creative outlet. I've been very tempted to do this on more than one occasion. Or we can consider the source. How knowledgeable about singing is this person? What is his or her true motivation for speaking negatively about our singing? And then use that information and feedback as motivation to keep working on developing our skills further. We also have to ask ourselves why we do what we do. When we zero in on our reasons for singing, whatever they might be, and when we can honestly say that those reasons outweigh the importance of other people's opinions, whether those opinions are negative or positive, then we'll stay in a healthy place because we'll be finding our motivation and affirmation that we're where we need to be from within. And the sixth slippery slope, I had to put this one in, is arrogance. There is a fine line between confidence and arrogance. As performers, we need to exhibit a certain amount of confidence in our skills. In fact, in order for us to get up on stage in front of an audience, we have to believe, at least to some extent, that we're capable and have something worthwhile to share. There are a lot of singers who feel like they're imposters and don't belong on the stage, and they fear the day that someone will notice that they don't have what it takes. That's another issue altogether. But the singers who are the most teachable and who are most able to grow are those who are humble and can acknowledge that there is always more room for growth, no matter how good they are. Even if they're great singers, they never rest on their laurels. They keep working hard and they're always open to feedback. Arrogance, on the other hand, prevents the singer from being open to constructive criticism and growth, and it also makes the singer a very difficult person to work with. And that's why it's a slippery slope. Thanks so much for listening today. I just wanted to share these thoughts that have been on my mind based on some observations and ideas that I've been having lately. I think I also want to record a sequel to this video that discusses the technical slippery slopes of singing. Maybe I'll do that soon. As always, I welcome your suggestions for topics that you'd like me to cover in these videos, but please be patient with me. I have to try to squeeze my recording times in between lessons, and I also feel really rushed when I make them. I don't really have the time to properly warm up my voice, which you could probably hear in some of my videos, or to record as often as I'd like to, but I will consider your ideas and try to base my videos on the topics that interest you the most, along with those that I come up with. So thanks for tuning in today. Please like this video and subscribe. I would really appreciate the support and the encouragement. Take care.